Well, good afternoon everyone and welcome. Welcome to our webinar today on SunSystems Q&A and Office 365 in a 64-bit deployment. My name is Michael and I'll be your host today. But presenting we have Robin Matheson, and Robin's been working with the SunSystems application for more than 19 years. And Robin's done a deep dive for us and a review into the Q&A requirements and planning a move to SunSystems Q&A within that Office 365 64-bit deployment. But before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items I'd like to make you aware of. Firstly, you are able to ask questions during the session today. On the right-hand side of your GoToMeeting panel, you can type in your questions and we will allow time at the end of the session to answer those questions for you. And secondly, we are recording the session today, which will allow you to either review again or to share with someone else within your organisation that you think this content may be relevant. So today's agenda, we do know that many organisations are moving to or considering a move to Office 365 in that 64-bit deployment. So it's important to understand the implications and plan for such a move, and specifically planning with regard to your SunSystems Q&A report writing suite. So on that, I'd like to pass over to Robin, who will take us through the presentation today. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's talk about what the effect of upgrading to Office 365 could have on your use of your Infor QA reporting suite. Is your organisation planning a move to Office 365? For most of us, the answer to this is yes. If you are using Q&A 10, you need to know how and when your IT team is planning the rollout of Office 365, how this may affect your access to Infor Q&A reporting suite, and what you should consider and include in planning for the coming change, so that you are prepared and in control of the access to your reports. I'm going to use the term QA 10 to make it a bit easier, but when I mention this, I am including all Q&A versions 10.1.8 and earlier. Most organisations have either already moved or are planning to move into an Office 365 environment. We know the rollout of Office 365 can affect our ability to use Q&A 10, but how does this affect you as an organisation, or as a user of the reporting suite, or a consumer of the reports? We are going to explore Office 365 options and what you need to consider and what you may want or need to do. It is critical for planning that you find out from your IT team what the deployment options for Office 365 will be you will be implementing, and when your environment will be updated. Infor QA 10 does not run in a 365 Office 64-bit deployment.
So that was an important point there, Robin. That was a very important point.
Yeah.
Do you want to just state that one again?
QA 10 does not run in Office 365 64-bit deployment.
Okay. So we don't want to be too dramatic, but we just want to make sure that people are clear in that statement.
Very clear.
Thanks.
Office 365 is the latest release from Microsoft, who are continually evolving their Office products to ensure they accommodate the new and better ways we are interacting as a business, and a key component is collaboration. There are multiple ways to deploy Office 365, and you can select to install it in a 32 or 64-bit deployment, or via the web, or any combination of these. Today, if I reference 32 and 64-bit at all, I am referring to Office 365 deployment and not deployment of any other applications.
So that's very specific to the Office deployment, not the operating system or not the workstation.
Not
Office deployment.
Office deployment only.
Okay.
So which Office version will you be using? Microsoft say the main consideration for rolling out a 64-bit deployment to a user or the whole organization is the size of the data. It seems to address performance issues. However, rolling out a 32-bit is recommended. It is mainly IT departments driving the rollout of Office versions, and some may decide to roll out Office 365 64-bit across the organization for other reasons. Whatever is driving the deployment of Office 365 in your organization, the version rolled out to you may impact your ability to use Q&A 10. Don't be caught by surprise. Find out when Office 365 will be rolled out and what version will be deployed to you. I'm sure at some point, like me, you have all experienced that after an upgrade, when you try and use something for the first time, it doesn't work and you've got to contact IT to fix it. Because we are users and not in control of the rollout, sometimes we are not aware of the versions being implemented or when the upgrade is planned or what the effect is going to be. As we said, Q&A 10 does not run in a 64-bit environment. Make sure your IT team provide you with an Office 365 32-bit environment which runs parallel to 64-bit, either permanently if you are rolling out a mixed environment or temporarily for the duration of your crossover if you are rolling out a 64-bit only. So you can continue running your reports and uploading data into SunSystems while you rewrite your reports. One or two of our clients have found that they couldn't access the Q&A 10 reports and were not able to upload any data into Sun after 64-bit Office 365 was rolled out across their organization. It is critical you maintain access to an Office 32-bit environment for the duration of the crossover that we are about to explore. Infor BI QA is the latest version of the SunSystems reporting suite, and as you can see, it runs in Office 365 in both 32 and 64-bit environments. And this is the recommended alternate to Q&A BI. Again, because these versions are quite hard to say, I'm going to reference QA BI for Infor BI Q&A, just to make it easier to say. Neither of these products, Q&A 10 or QA BI, can be used if Office 365 is deployed via the web. The reporting suites both are reliant on local Office installations. With QA BI being compatible in both 32 and 64-bit installations, everyone can install and run Q&A BI parallel to Q&A 10. It's also good to note that Q&A 10, although it will continue to be supported and patched, it is the last version that will be released. QA BI is the new version, and everyone will eventually move to that. Infor BI QA has been developed by Infor as a consolidated application with all the components included in the Excel add-in. It includes key functionality from the Q&A reporting suite, and the limiting inbuilt Excel functions have been removed. For example, the macros, the formatting, totals and subtotals. We are no longer restricted to what has been included within Q&A. We can now leverage the core Excel functionality. So let's take a look at what has changed and see what you need to do to move to Q&A BI. This is not an inconsequential move. The setup and maintenance utilities have been consolidated into a single setup tool. The key functionality of the Q&A Excel executive and alert components have been included in a consolidated Excel add-in. So as an example, your results analysis, breakouts, expands, drills, and your drill path maintenance have been included. All report definitions are now saved as formulas, and internal and external definitions are only available for your data send definitions. As I mentioned earlier, Excel functions that were included within the product have been removed. Two examples are macros and report designs, and we now use standard Excel functionality for those tools. Alerts are available within each Excel report, and in Ledger Import, your control desk option is no longer available, but the Ledger Import SunSystems Connect option is still available, and your definitions will be able to be opened and saved so you can use those in Q&A BI. The vision, budget management and Word components are no longer included. There are very few, if any, organizations that use these tools. If you are one of those organizations, we will have to assess on how best you can perform those processes in another way.
And Robin, that's something we would work with all clients to determine, identify, determine, and then work through the process to migrate on this. Yes.
As you now know, we're no longer restricted with the limited built-in Q&A functionality, so we can use all of the Excel core functionality to format, filter, create charts, pivot tables, totals and subtotals. Using Q&A BI also provides a platform for configuring multiple data connections. So you can include connecting to your Infor BI data source. Some of you already have Infor BI, and for most organizations it is already included in your licensing. Or you may connect to self-service dashboards. This provides a platform for users beyond the finance team to be able to create their own dashboards and financial reports across the organization. We will cover these extended options in another webinar if you are interested, and you can again always contact us for any information. So what does it entail moving to Q&A BI? Although it's a very similar tool to QA10, most reports will need to be recreated. There is no migration or upgrade path. So some very basic Excel reports can be individually migrated, but your complex Excel reports will need to be created. Hierarchies also don't move across and will need to be created. We will also need to create all executive reports and then the alerts and macros within those reports as they are added components. And you can then use Excel standard functionality to apply your formatting, your subtotals, create charts, etc. You can also run result analysis across those reports, like breakout and expand, and save those ruled paths. And you'll also need to open and save your ledger import definitions to be able to do ledger sends into SunSystems. Maintaining an Office 365 32-bit environment parallel is key to maintaining uninterrupted access for your current reports. You also have the luxury of time to review, assess, write and verify all your reports. And if you find there is a report that you missed, you can still just run it in Q&A10 and create it in QA BI. Like all applications, Infor are continually releasing new versions with additional functionality included. And as an example, two of the main inclusions we are waiting for is zero suppress in ledger import and user-defined outputs. If you use these functions that are not yet included, running parallel will provide you the ability to run these reports in Q&A10, and then when the functions are released, you can then run them in QA BI. Moving your reports across to QA BI may seem like a massive task, but with a little preparation and planning, it can result in a revised, consolidated and streamlined suite of reports. So what can you do now? The best thing is to confirm your Office 365 rollout strategy and timing with your IT team. Ensure that you have an Office 32-bit environment for your crossover period. This is also a great opportunity for you to include report housekeeping tasks to ensure your new suite of reports are consolidated, refined, and exclude any redundant or duplicate reports. You may have multiple reports providing the same information to different people that you can consolidate into a single report, or you may want to tweak and add to some of your reports. We recommend you create a report review directory to save copies of all the reports you currently use. This will help to identify the reports you need, and you can easily see how many reports you have to consider, and also help you manage the process of report review, development, and the scope. The time it will take to move your reports from Q&A 10 to BI also will depend on the volume of reports, your usage of the Q&A reporting suite, and the housekeeping task, which will help to make sure that you only include currently required reports. Resource availability to create, migrate, and verify the results will also impact the time it takes. And as always, we are here to help you.
And Robin, I think it's fair to say, you mentioned at the top, the key is here to plan.
The key is planning.
Let's not react after the fact. Let's plan.
Plan before.
Right. Yeah.
And then the impact is negated.
Exactly.
As long as you have access to a 32-bit environment with Q&A 10, there will be no interruption in producing your reports or uploading data to SunSystems. All organizations using Q&A 10 can implement QA/BI now. It is available to all QA licensed users. There is no compelling reason to wait. It is the perfect opportunity for you to become familiar with the components of QA/BI. You have the luxury of time to review and refine your reports and to do a little report housekeeping as well. There is no pressure of a cut-off time. You have there is no additional license cost of running both reporting suites parallel. And you can explore the options of connecting to alternate data sources and start looking at self-service dashboards or writing reports which include data from Infor BI. We have created a checklist for you if you would like to use that, which includes some of the considerations. It has a worksheet for compiling a list of reports and their progression through QA/BI for your planning, and also a worksheet to help you analyze your usage of Q&A 10. We'll send that out to you if you would like to use that. And we have a little bit of time for a sneak peek, so you can have a look at the product. Once we've had a look at that, we will have some questions and answer time. Okay, so as you can see, Infor BI QA is what's happened? An Excel add-in. We've still got our four components of summary link, summary reports, detailed reports, and reference link. Your data send component, the add-in of your drill path maintenance, which was a part of executive, your breakout and expand, and you can see within the report you've got your alert scheduler, and within your utilities you do have a migrate, although as we said it only affords you the ability to migrate very simple and basic Excel reports, and your hierarchy designer. As you can see, I've got a detailed report that saves as a formula, and if I launch the report definition, it looks very similar. So you'll be familiar with the tool. You've got your filter, your available columns, and your output, and you have the very basic styles. But as you can see, you don't have the report design, and you don't have internal or external definitions. But other than that, it's very similar. I've got an example of a summary report, and I have used the breakout and expand tools, which have then generated these additional spreadsheets. So when you use these tools in executive, you had the additional tabs. These in Excel, using these in Excel generates additional tabs. you'll see that the ledger import looks very similar. So if I go to data send, so my ledger import, I can still load my internal definition. And your options are very similar. So we have our header and our mapping to our detail lines. As we said though, this is through SS Connect. So when I try and send the data to SunSystems, I've got to log into SunSystems Connect. And just showing you how we would use macros, we use the standard Excel functionality of macros and call the BI functions. So these are just very simple macros. Okay. Any questions?
From me?
From anybody?
So look, just as a reminder, there's a couple of things I just wanted to reiterate here. Firstly, that we have recorded the session today, so you will be able to rewatch. I know that Robin went through quite a lot of content here already for us today, so we will send through in a follow-up to today's webinar a thank you for attendance and a link to our YouTube channel, which you will be able to watch a recording of the session. And secondly, the opportunity now for us to answer your questions. So on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar panel, you can actually type in a question for us, and we can start to answer those now. So, Robin, there has been some questions come through already. Are you ready to answer some questions?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the first one is, it's around the time. So is there any time restriction for running version 10 in parallel with Q&A BI?
There is no restriction, but we would expect most organisations to be on Infor BI within 18 months or so.
Okay. So no licensing restriction specifically?
No licensing restrictions.
But from a functionality and a migration path, we would expect about 18 months,
And
or
for,
within 18 months.
and for maintenance.
And for maintenance.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Good point. Okay, next question. Very specific question here. Do I still need Vision Alert once I move to Q&A BI?
You don't need the separate component. Alert is now built into your report, and so you can build alerts within a report, any report that you want to automate.
Okay, excellent. So we've got a question here as well. There was a note you made specifically on one of the slides with regard to a piece of functionality that might not be there. So what does zero suppress in LIM mean?
So in your ledger import, when you're sending data to SunSystems, you may have, for example, columns for budgets that go across 12 months, and in some columns you may have 0 values, and for others, so within a row you may have 0 values, and at the moment those zeros are posted as 0 lines into SunSystems, whereas the zero suppress will omit the 0 rows from being posted.
Okay, thank you. Sorry,
yeah, no. Just if anybody needs any additional clarification, we'll be happy to get back to them if anyone's got specific questions around that. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Look, this is maybe even a question that I could bravely answer. Robin has a panic look on your face there. When you hear the question, I think you'll understand. So the question is, does PA have Office 365 expertise to assist our IT journey? So the answer to that is definitely yes. So I certainly know the answer to that. Within the PA organisation, we have expertise definitely with Office 365, and that can help with the migration around Exchange Online, working with SharePoint, Power BI. So the full Office 365 suite, we are certainly certified and have been working with Office 365 now for quite some time. So that's a yes.
And we're using it.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Here's now a very specific question. Do we still have to log on to QA BI as Q&A in order to run refresh reports?
So when you log into QA BI to run your reports, if you have alerts running your reports, then you don't have to log in. But when you log in, the same as you used to log into QA 10, you still need to log into QA BI.
Okay. Oh wow, here's another very specific question. So the question is, the utilities, so that is the macro builder, no longer, I think that's exist. So no longer exist, I think it's no longer exist in QA BI.
So in QA10, you've got a built-in macro designer within QA10. It is not included. It's no longer available. So you would use standard Excel macros to call your QA BI functions. So you've got the full macro functionality as opposed to the limited macro that you had inbuilt into QA10.
Okay, brilliant. You're handling all these questions very nicely too, Robin, because the presentation is enough to prepare, but then the questions from the audience is the harder part.
That's the good bit.
Okay, a Sun 5.4 version question. Can we use QA BI with Sun 5.4?
Good question.
Good tough question.
I believe...
I can answer that if you want, Robin.
Introducing Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul, technical consultant for SunSystems. The Q&A BI uses the same data link CertArcs as Q&A 10, so you actually load those data link CertArcs. So yes, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't work with Sun 5.4. You just got to make sure you load the correct SunSystems 5 and 6 CertArcs for it to work. But I'll confirm if that's not the case.
Okay, so look, one of the things that we might do, because there are some specific technical questions here, we can use the follow-up to just clarify that if there is any discrepancy, Paul. So appreciate that, and thanks for jumping in there to handle that question. Okay, another question now around Office 365 32-bit. Does Q&A support the 2016 version of Office 365 32-bit?
Yes, I believe so.
Right, let's go. That's a yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I can elaborate on that for Tony. Even Q&A 10, 10.18 actually is supported with Office 2016 32-bit. Okay, it's the bit version that matters, whether you use Q&A BI or whether you use Q&A 10. So any 64-bit version of Office, whether it's 2013 up to 2016, is only supported with BI. But 2016 version, 32-bit, is supported with Q&A 10.18 and is supported with Q&A BI as well.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks. Okay, we've got a question around the macro button. Is the macro button refresh a recalculate? And if so, can it to refresh a range?
It can refresh a range.
Excellent. Well, that's a definite yes.
That's a yes.
Yeah. Oh, here's another version question now around Sun specifically. What versions of Sun support QA BI?
Well, it goes back to what I said before. Theoretically, it should work with all versions, even Sun 4, because the connectivity happens via the data link CerDuct. So providing you load the right data link CerDuct, so SunSystems 4 if you're using SunSystems 4, or SunSystems 5 and 6 if you're using a 5 or 6.1 version, and then it's only clients that are using Sun 6.2 that need to load the new SunSystems 6 CerDuct. So like I said, I'll verify that, but theoretically it should work with all Sun versions because it just uses the same CerDuct data link to connect to the database.
Okay, so what we might do, Paul, then just on that, because there's been a couple of questions around version, we may just get clarification and summarise that as part of the follow-up to this webinar for those that have attended today, just to get clarity on specific version numbers.
No problems.
Thank you. Here's a question on potentially unavailable functionality. Can you save the drill path of an expand yet? More information on the question?
I believe so. I will confirm that. I believe you can. I will confirm that.
Okay, so we'll add that to the specific follow-up. Okay, there's a number of questions coming through. Seems like we've created some definite interest here, Robin, in the content you've presented. The next question here is there a way to schedule multiple reports using alerts as we run over 30 executive reports with breakouts at a time? So can you schedule multiple reports using alert?
You can schedule multiple reports, but the schedule will be within each report. So alert is configured within a report. It's not an external component where you select 5 or 10 reports or however many. You need to configure the alert within the report, and then you just schedule when it will fire, when it's going to run.
Okay, so multiple reports can be scheduled to run at the same time, but it's done within the report.
Within the report.
Okay, excellent. Okay. This is a interesting question now. So, is there a cost involved with moving to QA BI, or is this an upgrade to QA 10? So, from a licensing perspective,
there's no cost, and there's also licensing cost to run parallel. So you can actually run QA 10 and QA BI parallel.
Okay, excellent. And then the cost involved in services with our help in terms of that planning, and then there's the migration of reports that you mentioned.
Yes, assistance with planning or help, becoming familiar with the tool if you need converting or rewriting reports. So any services, but licensing, there's no cost.
Certainly no licensing cost. Okay, excellent. SSC. So the question is, what is SSC and how is it used in other applications?
SunSystems Connect. That's probably maybe a Paul technical question. It's how we connect to SunSystems.
Yeah, I can answer that, Robin. So SSC is known as SunSystems Connect. You need to think of it as a gateway. It's an XML language gateway that allows SunSystems to interact with other applications. So those of you that are familiar with Transfer Desk will know that it actually uses some SSC to do a lot of the tasks. But what SSC is, think of it as a gateway so that you can actually use, so you can create your own APIs or your own third-party products that can communicate to SunSystems through using this SSC gateway.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, we've got one more
There is
question.
serialisation. Sorry, I should mention there is extra serialisation involved in making sure that that's enabled. It's installed by default, but you need serialisation for it to be enabled.
Okay, thank you. So there is a licensing requirement there. Okay, another question just come through. Is a designer version being planned? And if so, is there a target date?
A designer version?
Well, that's the question, Robert.
Maybe need a bit of clarification, but I think if you mean report design within the Excel tool, they used to have a report designer within the Excel tool, and they're not including that because you were limited in your design. So we now use just standard Excel functionality for formatting and design. So I know you could do filtered columns, and you could do subtotals and totals with report design. We need to look at using standard Excel functionality to do that now.
Okay, so the answer here is the applications work in Excel. So all the functionality enabled in Excel is how we design. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I just wanted to say thank you to Robin, firstly, for the presentation of the content and then handling all those questions that came through, and also thank you to Paul there for jumping in and helping with the more technically specific questions. So I really appreciate that. And as I said, we have recorded the session today, so you will be able to go back and review. But we will also, there was a couple of very version-specific questions around Sun, version numbers, compatibility. We'll follow those up as part of the follow-up, so everyone can actually hear that answer. So we won't just answer the question for the person that asked. We'll actually use that as part of the follow-up from the webinar to answer that question for everybody. So just to quickly wrap up, we just wanted to identify a couple of other webinars that we will have, that PA will be running in the near future. So we do have with the SunSystems webinar today that you've just attended. We have as you can see from the slides here, there are a number of events that we are identifying. One I would like to just make note of there is the Internet in the Box webinar. One of the questions that we had today was PA's ability to assist with Office 365 as a broad heading. If your organisation is considering Office 365 and in particular working around SharePoint, we have a webinar on the 1st of September noting that Internet in the Box there and how we can help deploy SharePoint within your organisation, get you up and running reasonably quickly. So just wanted to say again, thank you for everyone for attending the session today. Thanks again to Robin for presenting a lot of content and for answering those questions as they came through, which was great. We will follow up with a recording of the session that everyone will receive a copy of. And as you leave the webinar today, so as you exit the webinar today, you'll be able to answer a couple of questions there for us in a survey. And one of those questions will be around using and working with Professional Advantage to help you with your planning with regard to the move with the content you've seen today. So the intention of today was to just make people aware of the planning required to make a move with Q&A BI. But of course we want to make sure that you're aware that we are here to help you. And we can actually help you with the planning, we can help you with the actual execution as well. So if you would like our assistance, please note that in the answer to the survey as you log out today. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you everyone for attending. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you again at a future webinar. Bye everyone.